Hey, how you doing? It's been a little while. Such is life, hey? Well, I don't know about you, but I had a holiday. I was lucky. I got to do a big road trip from our home in the south of France all the way down to Portugal, as far as Porto. If you've not been to Portugal, if you've not traveled around the mountains and the seaside near Porto and Porto itself, worth a visit. That's it on the holidays. I mentioned in my ramble today that getting back to work is sometimes a bit of a challenge, isn't it? When you've been away on holiday and you're still in holiday mode and you've got to go back to work and you've got to do the things you've got to do. It can be quite difficult. However, for me, what keeps me going, what stops me from thinking, oh, I don't want to be here, I want to be on my holidays and so on. It's passion. I have passion for what I do. I love what I do. And I'm very, very fortunate to be in that position. I'm so grateful for that. Anyway, that's not why I'm here today. I'm here today to talk a little bit about addiction, a little bit about something, well, quite a lot about something called compassionate inquiry. And a little bit about positive psychology, which should come as no surprise for anybody who knows me because I use positive psychology in my practice. So, what are we doing today? Well, first of all, thanks for being here. It's good to see you. I know I can't really see you. I know I say things like, hey, good to see you. But it's kind of making that connection. It's important to have those connections, I think. So, as I said, what I'm going to do is share a few insights into what is a really powerful approach to healing and personal growth. So it can be used for healing and personal growth, but it can be used for healing, which always brings some growth with it, or personal growth in relation to other areas of life where we don't perhaps need to heal from something. So what I'm going to be talking about, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, is this thing called compassionate inquiry. So the method of passionate inquiry stems from, or at least is influenced by the work of a guy called Dr. Gabor Maté. If you want to look him up, you can find him on YouTube. He's really interesting to listen to. I spell it, so it's Dr. Gabor, Gabor. And Maté is spelt M-A-T-E, like mate in English, but pronounced Maté. So Maté went beyond traditional treatments, and he tapped into this deeper level of understanding. And he did that because that level of understanding has the potential to transform not only our pain, but our entire approach to life. So that's interesting, right? So let's think about compassionate inquiry and what Gabor Maté, he identified, I suppose. So it's more than just a therapeutic tool. It's actually a way of being with ourselves, with other people, and it invites us to look beyond the surface. We're about creating a space where we can listen deeply. I mean, really listen deeply to our stories and our emotions. And we can do that. We can learn to do that without any judgment and with an open heart. So, for example, on addiction, Maté emphasized that addiction, trauma, and many of the challenges we face are not simply individual failings, because what they are is responses to unresolved emotional pain and unmet needs. So, for example, I had an accident. Many people will know this, not everybody does. Many years ago, I had quite a big accident. I ended up in a wheelchair. I lost my job because I couldn't perform my job, and so on and so on. It was complicated. It wasn't simply that I'd had an accident and caused some damage in my left leg. There was more to it than that. But one of the things that happens because of all this is that I was given very powerful pain relief medications, opiate level pain relief medications. And the result of taking those pain relief medications is that I became addicted to prescribed opiates. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've worked with people with addictions. I don't want to be one of these people who is addicted to medication. I must be failing. I must be morally wrong. There's something wrong with me. It's more than just the pain that I had in my body. But as Gabor Maté pointed out, no, addiction is not some kind of moral failing or weakness. There's far, far more to it than that. I wish I'd have understood or come across Maté at that point in my life. It would have been helpful, but hey ho, I progressed, I learned, I moved forward. I'm no longer addicted, of course. So, what is this thing called compassionate inquiry? Well, it involves gently and empathetically exploring the deep layers of our experience. Now, it's very difficult to do that on your own. So, hey ho, here I am. You need somebody like me, somebody qualified to understand how to explore the deep layers of our experience. And more than explore, but actually manage and do something when we discover what's going on these deeper layers of experience. It's about understanding the why behind our behaviors and our emotions, why we suffer, why we seek comfort in certain ways, and ultimately, how can we begin to heal? That's the big one. So, using positive psychology, I integrate my own experience and understandings of positive psychology into what Maté talks about. One of the things about deep listening that I'll mention now before I forget it is deep listening is not just sitting and hearing what somebody has to say. It's sitting and really hearing and feeling what they're talking about, really empathizing. It's not about thinking up the next question to what they're actually talking about right now, because if I'm busy thinking up a question to what somebody's talking about right now in this moment, I'm not actually listening, am I? So this is the little thing. Think about this. Think about the word listen. 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 Well, if we jumble the letters to the word listen around a little bit, we get a really cool word, silent. So if we're listening, we need to be silent. If we're not silent, we're not listening. Some people refer to that as pseudo-listening. It's not really listening. So let's go back to positive psychology. So when we integrate compassionate inquiry with the principles of positive psychology, we open up this amazing place with huge possibilities for healing and growth. As many people know, positive psychology is the scientific study of what makes life worth living. It focuses on things like strengths, virtues, and factors that contribute to a flourishing life. So in the context of the things that Maté talked about, this integration means that while we compassionately explore our wounds and pain, we also identify and build upon our inner strengths and resources. It's interesting that quite often when I meet a new client, I ask them a question like, what are your superpowers? By superpowers, what I mean is, what are you really good at? What's kind of built in? What comes with you? What comes with your model? Many people say, oh, I haven't really got any superpowers. Or I've got one or two, but not really more than that. But it's amazing that once we start to look inside, suddenly their list of superpowers starts to grow. And that is really exciting because then they realize that actually, I've got all these superpowers that I can use to build even more so my strength and my inner resources. So, what are your superpowers? If you're not sure, if you get a couple, like I said, no problem. Send me a direct message. We can talk. So, one of the things that I do that is really important is that I recognize that healing doesn't just involve addressing what's wrong. And that's because it's also about nurturing what's right within us. Our resilience, for example, our capacity for joy, and our potential for growth. So let's not just look at the problems, let's look in detail at what's right within us. Mentioning listening, I'm going back to listening because it's so important. One of the key elements of compassionate inquiry is this thing called deep listening. And we need to truly tune in to our inner experiences and the experiences of other people. And we need to do that with empathy and with curiosity, not with judgment. A lot of our struggles, at least in my experience and other writers on the topic, seem to stem from not being heard or understood in our deepest needs and emotions. So when I listen deeply in the way that compassionate inquiry encourages, I'm not just hearing words or acknowledging feelings. I'm connecting with the underlying emotions, the unspoken needs, and the parts of people and myself that may have been neglected or suppressed for years. And this kind of listening can be incredibly healing in itself. And that's because it creates this space where we feel truly seen and heard, often, in many people's cases, for the first time. And that's kind of wow. And when we bring in the positive psychology perspective, we're also listening for strengths, for moments of resilience, and for this amazing evidence of our capacity to thrive. And this is one of the things that we do in the therapeutic process, or in the coaching process too. Let's think about hidden wounds and strengths for a minute. Compassionate inquiry enables to uncover the hidden wounds that often drive our behaviors and our choices. And sometimes these wounds might be deeply rooted in the past, particularly in childhood experiences of trauma or neglect. And by bringing these wounds out into the light, we can start to heal them. But I'm going to repeat this, and it's not for the first time. Of repeating it many, many times. We're not just focusing on what's broken. In psychology, focusing on what's broken is linked to something called the disease model. You can ask me about the disease model or look back, you'll see some posts relate to it. And that's because with the positive psychology approach, we're also uncovering our strength. The aspects of ourselves that have helped us survive and thrive despite the challenges that are around in our world. And we recognize that within each and every one of us, there is a wealth of resilience, a wealth of courage, and an enormous amount of potential. one of the ultimate goals, or perhaps the ultimate goal of compassionate inquiry, when it's put together with positive psychology in particular, is to empower us to heal and grow. By understanding the true source of our challenges, we can start to make meaningful changes in our lives. We're not simply overcoming difficulties, because we're actively building a life that aligns with our values, our strength, and our deep aspirations. It's kind of, Maté talked about creating a new narrative for ourselves. That's a great way of thinking about it. So this new narrative for ourselves acknowledges that our pain is there, but also it acknowledges that we have power to transform it. Now, many of my particularly new clients come to me and they have no acknowledgement of power to transform. And that's because they've not been helped to look at it with a positive psychology lens. But it's amazing how people develop and grow when they realize, actually, I do have power to transform and change things. It's really quite exciting. And this process helps us to cultivate resilience, to cultivate optimism and a sense of purpose. So we learn to see our struggles not just as obstacles, because they're far more than that. They're actually opportunities for growth. So as we do this, we begin to flourish and we begin to reach our fullest potential. So let's, just to bring this together, compassionate inquiry is about much, much more than just healing. It's about transformation. It's about turning inward with empathy. It's not about beating ourselves up. It's about curiosity. It's not about judgment. And it's about a focus on our strengths, not our weaknesses. It's about understanding the past. And by understanding the past, we can live fully in the present and create a future that reflects our true selves. So join me. Let's embrace this journey of self-discovery, because it's an amazing journey. It's a journey of self-discovery, as I mentioned a moment ago. It's a journey of healing. It's a journey of growth. And it enables us as well to move way beyond simply surviving to truly thriving. To do all of that, we need to nurture ourselves. We need to nurture each other. And we can use compassionate inquiry to do just that. Then we'll get to flourish. And that is outstanding. Okay, that's it for today. If you've got any questions, brilliant. Leave your questions, send direct messages, get in touch, use whatever method you need to use, and I will get back to you very, very quickly. Okay, there's always appointments around, but it will be a quick reply. Have a brilliant day. Take care. I'll speak to you soon.